President Muhammadu Buhari, GCF Act on the environment of funds in the 2018 Appropriation Act. The committee made recommendations on the INEC component of the request to enable the election management body commence procurement of materials for the 2019 general elections, which the Senate approved on Thursday, 11th October 2018. However, in view of the fact that the request from Mr. President came as a holistic document for the conduct of the 2019 general elections, the committee deems it fit to appropriate and present this final report to cover all the components of the request. 2018 Appropriation Act Environment Supplementary Report request by Mr. President. The executive request for environment of the fund in the 2018 Appropriation Act in respect of the 2019 general elections from the combined reading of Mr. President's letters dated 11 July and 19 September 2018 is as shown in the table below. The total amount as per the table requested by Mr. President is the sum of 242,445,302,600 naira. So, recommendations of the report of the committee. The committee, having considered the report of the subcommittees on INEC, Security and Intelligence, Interior, and Police Affairs, in respect of the positions for INEC, NSA and DSS, NSCDC and NIS, and MPF respectively, and having worked in conjunction with the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations, including the other relevant House subcommittees, and working out the details of the request, recommends as follows. 1. That the aggregate sum of 242,245,050,100 naira be approved as environment for the 2019 general elections for INEC and the above named security agencies, which will increase the 2018 budget of the agencies as shown below. It is summarized there on page 3. 2. Source of funding. The source of fund be sourced from both the current and captive components of Special Intervention Program captured in the service-wide votes of 2018 Appropriation Act as indicated in the table below. The table below is showing the Appropriation Act as passed by the Senate to the tune of 500 billion naira, and the environment proposed total involved is 245,050,100 naira, leaving a balance for the Social Intervention Fund in sum of 257,754,949,900 naira. 3. That the attached detailed schedule to the report also be approved. 4. Prayer. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do consider the report of the committee and approve the recommendations. Conclusion. On behalf of the Appropriations Committee, I wish to thank the Senate. I wish to thank the Senate President and the entire leadership of the Senate, as well as the relevant appropriations subcommittees for their cooperation and support for earlier consideration and presentation of this report. Thank you very much.
Yes, and well,
I want to say, in view of the wonderful job that the Committee on Appropriation did in putting together this report, considering the fact that it worked with all the relevant committees in the Senate, as well as it also worked with the House Committee on Appropriations for 3 days in getting to this position that it has just submitted. And a wonderful job has been done. Apart from giving approval, recommending approval for the money requested, the committee went further to show where divine money will come from. It is a wonderful job, well put together, very encompassing. It includes everything that needs to be stated in order for one to understand what's going on in this exercise. I therefore urge my colleagues to give the necessary approval so that this report will be passed, and then these agencies will have the money to prosecute the 2019 election as requested by Mr. President. I say submit, Mr. President.
On the enormous work that the Committee on Appropriation has done in putting forward this request, in line with the request of Mr. President to ensure a hitch-free elections come 2019. Mr. President, I also wish to state that this report takes cognizance of the fact that the contributions and the submissions of our colleagues in the House of Representatives is also part of the input that has led to this comprehensive work that has been done by the Senate Committee on Appropriation. I therefore wish to support the submissions that the Senate do consider and approve this report to ensure a hitch-free elections come 2019 as requested by Mr. President. Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President, and God bless you.
Mr. President, I rise to join my colleagues in commending the Appropriation Committee for a speedy job and also for carrying out this difficult job in a manner that satisfies all expectations of both the lawmakers and the implementers of law. The proposal for the supplementary budget for election came in quite late. In fact, less than a week to when we will vacate on our official pre-arranged vacation. And the whole nation was awash with media publications of how insensitive the National Assembly was in dealing with the budget, not remembering the fact that it was already known 4 years ago that this election will take place in 2019. I'm happy that the Senate and the House of Representatives stood their ground to ensure that the executive branch carries on with their normal business in the manner that they needed to do, irrespective of the handling of this budget. And today, we have come to a stage where this budget is passed in due time for them to carry out their responsibilities.
Mr. President, I want to refer us to page 3 of this document. Under the first table that deals with the total 2018 Appropriation Act, the calculation is wrong. The calculation there is wrong, Mr. President. Under the security agencies, the total figure should have been 831,259,222,256 and not 255. That is the observation I made here. The correction should be noted, Mr. President.
Those in favor of recommendation 1, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of recommendation 2, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Third recommendation, that the attached schedule report be approved. Those in favor of recommendation 3, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Senate Committee on Appropriations. We finally have done to pass this request on the supplementary request for the INEC and the security agencies. I hope with this that those respective agencies will do what is required in ensuring that we have a credible, safe election in 2019. And also the agencies will play their own role in ensuring that they act professionally during this period.
The 53 billion security budget is to be vied from the Special Intervention Fund, just like the 189 billion for the Independent National Electoral Commission. The legislators confirmed the nomination of Abba Ali and Mohammed Sagir as non-legal members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission, as presented by Senator David Umaru, Chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters.
The third order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Senator Abba Aji and Mr. Mohammed Sagir for appointment as members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Wednesday, the 10th of October, 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator David Umaru, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration of the report.
Senator David Umaru.
My name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of nomination of Senator Abba Ali and Mr. Mohammed Sagir for appointment as members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. I so move.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion ably moved by Chairman Senate Committee on Judiciary. I so second.
Distinguished, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary Human Rights on the confirmation and nomination of Senator Abba Aji and Mohammed Sagir for appointment of members of Federal Judicial Service Commission. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator David Moore, present your report.
This is the report of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of nominations of Senator Abba Ali and Mohammed Sagir for appointment as members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. The Senate will recall that at its plenary sitting on Wednesday, 18th July 2018, the request by Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for the confirmation of nominations of Senator Abba Ali and Mohammed Sagir as members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission was considered. The nominations were made pursuant to Section 154, subsections 1 and 3, in conformity with paragraph 12F of the third schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which enjoins Mr. President to appoint, and I quote, 2 other persons not being legal practitioners who, in the opinion of the President, are of unquestionable integrity, subject to confirmation of such appointment by this distinguished Senate. After deliberations on the executive communication, the Senate referred it to the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, via order of referral dated 19th July 2018 for further legislative action and to report back with its recommendations. With the permission of Mr. President, I will go to recommendations. The methodology is as indicated, and the screening exercise is also indicated on page 2. Background and work experience in page 3. And the actual screening exercise is also, indicated. I will go to recommendations and observation that the committee made the following observation. 1, that the appointment of the nominee satisfied the requirement of paragraph 12F of the text schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended on the appointment of members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission being persons of unquestionable integrity. 2, that the nominees, Senator Abba Ali and Mr. Mohammed Sagir, are fit and proper persons for appointment as members, non-legal, Federal Judicial Service Commission. 3, that there is no petition against the appointment of the nominees as members of the Commission. And that 4, there is no adverse report against the nominees, as record checks and other forms of investigation by the security agencies did not reveal any negative traits against them. Recommendation. The Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, having screened the nominees and being satisfied about their integrity, experience, performance, qualification, and competence, hereby recommends that the Senate do confirm the nominations of Senator Abba Ali and Mr. Mohammed Sagir for appointment as members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. And I so move. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolves the Committee of the Whole to consider the report.
Distinguished colleagues, if there are no objection, I will just go straight to put the question. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Senator Abba Ali as a member non-legal of Federal Judicial Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mohammed Sagri, also as a member non-legal Federal Judicial Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Mr. President's nominees for appointment as members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission, and approve the nomination of Senator Abba Ali and Mr. Mohammed Sagri as members non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? I will now put the question for confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Senator Abba Ali as a member non-legal Federal Judicial Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Senator Abba Ali is hereby confirmed as member non-legal Federal Judicial Service Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mohammed Sagri as member of the Federal Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mr. Mohammed Sagri is hereby confirmed as a member non-legal of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. On behalf of the Senate, I'd like to congratulate the two gentlemen and wish them a successful tenure in their service to the country.
The Senate also considered the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2018. This proposed law has been declined assent by the President 3 times for some technical and constitutional reasons. While presenting the 4th version for passage, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission, Suleiman Nazif, explained that all the concerns of Mr. President has been addressed. This is the 4th time the Electoral Act Amendment Bill will be presented on the floor of the 8th Senate. President Muhammadu Buhari had withheld assent to the 3rd bill while the National Assembly were still on recess, but the Joint Committee on INEC cut short their recess and reconsidered the bill by correcting the observations of Mr. President.
Order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on INEC on the Independent National Electoral Commission Act 2010, Amendment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Tuesday, the 16th of October 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Suleiman Nazif, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Nazif.
My name is Senator Suleiman Nazif, Bauchino. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do consider a report on the Committee on INEC on the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC Act 2010 Amendment Bill 2018 SB 699 as so moved.
Senator Rosoko.
Rosoko, Cross River North. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on INEC on the Independent National Electoral Commission Act 2010 Amendment Bill 2018 SB 690. I so move.
Report of the Committee on INEC on Independent National Electoral Commission INEC Act 2010 Amendment Bill 2018 SB 699. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Nazif, kindly present your report.
The long-awaited report of the Senate Committee on the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC on a bill for an act to amend the Electoral Act No. 6, 2010 and for other matters connected there with 2018 SB 699. Background of the bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may wish to recall that the Senate, at its plenary sitting on Wednesday, 10th October 2018, read the bill for an act to amend the Electoral Act number 6/2010 and for other matters connected therewith, 2018 SB 669. The second time I referred same to the Senate Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for further legislative action and to report back on Tuesday, 16 October 2018. You may also wish to recall that the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria passed this very electoral amendment bill this 2018 and forwarded same to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for his assent pursuant to Section 58(4) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The President declined to assent due to some observed lacunas in some of the sections of the amendment bill and advised that those observations as highlighted in paragraph 3A to E below needed to be addressed, hence the reason for reintroduction of this very important bill to be passed again. 3. Mr. President's observation. Mr. President's observation on some of the sections contained in the bill and the proposed amendment made by the committee include the following. A, Clause 4, amends Section 18 of the Principal Act, which deals with erroneous cross-references made in the bill that was sent earlier for assent. B, Clause 10 amends Section 36(3) of the Principal Act that deals with qualified language. It states that a qualified language as contained in Section 36(3) of the Principal Act should be reconsidered due to its unintended effect because it may unduly increase the cost of administrative burden of conducting election in the event that any candidate, no matter how inconsequential to the overall electoral process, passes away during election. C, Clause 14 amends Section 49(4) of the Principal Act that deals with failure of card reader. Where a smart card reader deployed for accreditation of voters failed to function in any polling unit and a fresh card reader is not deployed 3 hours before the close of the election in that unit, then the election shall not hold, but be rescheduled and conducted within 24 hours thereafter, provided that where the total possible votes from all the affected card readers in the unit or units does not affect the overall result in the constituency or election concerned. The Commission shall, notwithstanding the fact that a fresh card reader is not deployed as stipulated, announce the final result and declare a winner. D, Clause 24 amends Section 87(13) of the Principal Act that deals with the issue of deadline for primary election. The date for primary shall not be earlier than 150 days and not later than 90 days before the date of the election to the elective office. The same section also stipulates a specific period within which political party primaries are required to be held, since the unintended consequence of leaving INEC with only 9 days to collate and compile lists of candidates and political parties for various elections. This is because the earlier Electoral Act Amendment Bill did not properly amend Section 31, 33, and 85 of the Principal Act that stipulates times for submission of lists of candidates, publication of lists of candidates, notice of convention and congresses for nominating candidates for election. E, Clause 32 amends Section 144 of the Principal Act that deals with omission of name of a candidate or logo of political party. It states that if at the point of display or distribution of ballot papers by the Commission, a candidate or his agent discovers that his name, the name or logo of his party is omitted, a candidate or his agent shall notify the Commission, and the Commission shall A, postpone the election to ratify the omission, and B, appoint another date to conduct the election not later than 90 days. Where the election is postponed due to omission of a political party's name or logo, the Commission officer responsible for such printing of party names or logo commits an offense and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for 2 years or a fine of 2 million naira or both. Also, in an extra effort to address some other issues rightly observed in the provisions of both the Principal Act and the amended bill, the committee went further to amend some other sections of the Principal Act, made some additional new insertions or subparagraphs appropriately in the amendment bill. The other sections of the Principal Act that are also amended are listed below as follows. Section 31, 33, 34, 38, 44, 67, 76, 78, 82, 85, 87, 91, 99, 112, 120, 138, 143, 151, and the schedule. Note that the detail on each of these sections listed above are contained in the amendment bill attached to this report. 4. Objective of the bill. The main objective of the amendment of this bill includes the following. 1. To provide for the use of card reader and any other similar technological device in conducting elections. 2. To provide a timeline for submission of lists of candidates and rightly captured in Section 31(6) and 85(1) of the bill. 3. To identify criteria for substitution of candidate, limits of campaign expenses, and 4. To address notice problems related to the omission of names of candidates or logo of political parties. 5. Method of operation. In carrying out this assignment, committee members considered and effectively utilized the underlisted as guide for arriving at unanimous resolution on each of the amended sections of the principal act contained in the amendment bill. 1. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. 2. The INEC Electoral Act 2010 as amended. 3. The Electoral Act 2010 simplified. 4. Suggestions made by key stakeholders, and 5. Other relevant materials. 6. Comment. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, at this juncture it is worthy to state very clearly that all the issues raised by Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria while declining his assent to this bill have been captured and addressed. 7. Recommendation. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, having completed this crucial assignment very satisfactorily as contained in the bill attached to this report, we urge you to favorably do consider and pass this bill as recommended. We so recommend. 8. In conclusion, on behalf of members of this committee, I wish to most sincerely express our tremendous gratitude for the opportunity given to us to serve in this regard. I thank you, Mr. President, and my highly respected colleagues.
The amendment bill is to provide for the use of card readers and any other similar devices in elections, to provide timeline for the submission of list of candidates, limit of election expenses of 5 billion naira for presidential candidates, 1 billion for governorship, 250 million for Senate, and 100 million for members of House of Representatives.
The Senate in the Committee of the Whole consider the report on the Committee on INEC on the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC Act 2010 Amendment Bill 2018 and are approved as follows. 1 to 24 as recommended, 25 as amended, 26 to 35 as recommended, schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
I move that the bill be now read a third time.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be not read a third time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to amend the provisions of the Electoral Act No. 6, 2010, to further improve the electoral process and for related matters 2018, third reading.
A bill for an act to amend the provisions of the Electoral Act No. 6, 2010, to further improve the electoral processes and further related matter 2018 is read the third time and passed. Distinguished colleagues, let me congratulate all of us, particularly the Committee on Electoral Matters, for the hard work they've put in. We're able to achieve this that looked almost impossible at the time, but I want to commend everybody for their efforts in making this happen. And this will go a long way to improve our electoral process and further strengthen our governance. And I'm sure with this now, Mr. President would of course give us his assent, and we can now finally have an electoral act that we'll all be proud of. I thank you all for all your efforts, and also our colleagues in the House of Representatives.
The Senate also passed the bill for an act to establish School of Mines and Geological Studies, which the House of Representatives had passed.
The third order of the day is a House bill for concurrence on the School of Mines and Geological Studies, Akoko, Edo State Establishment, etc., Bill 2018. The single senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 15th of May 2018. Mr. President, may I lead the debate on the bill? The School of Mines and Geological Studies Establishment, etc., Bill 2018, HB 105 from the House of Representatives for our concurrence. The School of Mines and Geological Studies Establishment, ETC Bill 2018, was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 15th of May 2018. This bill seeks to establish a School of Mines and Geological Studies in Akoko, Edo, local government area of Edo State, to serve as a training ground for would-be geologists, miners, and thereby enhance the diversification of the Nigerian economy, creation of wealth, and the generation of employment. Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, this bill is not controversial and have gone through rigorous scrutiny and public hearings in the House of Representatives. I therefore urge us all to support the second reading of this bill. Thank you for listening.
Senator Polka.
I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader. I so second.
Those in favor that this bill read the second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the School of Mines and Geological Studies, Akoko Edo, local government area, and for related matters 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the School of Mines and Geological Studies, Akoko Edo, local government area, and for related matters 2018, second reading taken.
Establish some institutions of higher learning. These include the Federal Polytechnic Orozo Establishment Bill and the urgent need to intensify the fight against soil erosion in states affected by the natural disaster. The Federal Polytechnic Orozo Abuja Establishment Bill was passed through first reading. The bill is sponsored by Senator Philip Aduda, representing the Federal Capital Territory.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Phillips Aduda on the Federal Polytechnic Abuja Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Capital Territory Polytechnic Orozo Abuja Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 703, first reading.
Federal Capital Territory Polytechnic Orozo Abuja, etc. Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 703, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Very respected colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the screening of the following persons for appointment as chairman and members of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. The nominees are Professor Bolaji Owasanoe, Chairman, the State of Osun, Southwest. Dr. Grace N. Chinda, Member, Delta State, South-South. Okolo Titus M., Member, Enugu State, Southeast. Barrister Obiora Igwe Dibia, Member, Anambra, Southwest. Mrs. Olubukola Balogun, Member, Lagos State, Southwest. Justice Adamu Bello, Member, Katsina State, Northwest. Hannatu Mohammed, Member, Jigawa State, Northwest. Abdullahi Mekano Saidu, member Niger State, North Central, and Yahya Umar Dauda, member Nasarawa State, North Central. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Chukwuka Utazi, chairman of the committee, to be represented here by Senator Sumonu.
Senator Sumonu.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the screening of nominees for confirmation as chairman and members of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. Thank you.
Senator Ledani.
I support the motion that the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes be received by this Senate. I so second.
Favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the screening of nominees for confirmation as chairman and members of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission ICPC as listed by the leader of the Senate. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Sumon, you come and lay the report, please.
The issue of erosion also featured on the floor as Senator Mao Ohuabunwa advised the Nigerian Ecological Fund and the Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project to urgently seek permanent solution to the disturbing gully erosion in Isukwato, Uturu and Oguduasa communities in Abia State and other states affected by the natural disaster.
The second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Mao Ohuabunwa on the menace of gully erosion in several communities of Abia North, especially in Isukwato, local government area communities of Uturu and Ogudusa. Mr. President, you recall that yesterday, the 23rd of October 2018, the Senate, via Order 42 sub 2 of our standing order, approved that this motion be moved on the next legislative day, which is today. Accordingly, you may wish to invite Senator Mao Ohuabunwa to move his motion.
Senator Mao Ohuabunwa.
My name is Senator Mao Ohuabunwa, representing the entire people of Abia North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I want to thank you and my colleagues for giving me this opportunity to bring up this important motion that will impact on the life of my constituents of Abia North. The menace of gully erosion in several communities of Abia North, especially in Isukwato local government areas, and particularly communities of Utru and Oguduasa. The Senate, conscious of the need for the preservation, restoration and maintenance of the ecological environment of our local communities, for safe movement of citizens, easy transportation of goods, services, and for the entire peace, security, and well-being of citizens, all of which require the taking of quick action to restore normalcy when such situations are impaired. Senate are aware that the ecological environment of many communities in the local governments of Abia North, particularly Arochukwu, Ohafia, Bende, Isukwato, and Umunochi local governments, have all been facing serious menace of gully erosion, partly due to increased rainfall that exacerbates flooding, and which threaten the livelihood and entire existence of many communities. The Senate concerned that a recent massive erosion that affected Oguduasa and Utru communities of Isukwato, the major agricultural food baskets of Abia State, and the connecting routes that links Abia State to Enugu, Anambra, and Ebonyi states, have completely separated contiguous communities of Oguduasa and Utru communities from reaching the local government of headquarters of Isukwato and beyond, thus affecting the entire people of Isukwato local government and resulting to loss of lives, property, and especially hindering access to crucial farmlands and limiting the evacuation of food crops at important periods of the harvesting season. Mr. President, distinguished Senator, the Senate persuaded that this erosion tragedy at this time has the capacity of collapsing the entire rural agricultural economy of a thriving food basket areas of Isukwato and Abia North, especially the communities of Ogudoasa and Uturu, with the consequent loss of valuable agricultural products and property, and with the attendant results of food insecurity, both locally and beyond the state, all of which require urgent intervention to arrest the situation before another heavy rain season sets in. Mr. President, the Senate accordingly resolves to my prayers. 1, to urge the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, and the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, to quickly intervene to rescue the situation and restore easy mobility of vehicles, citizens, goods, and services throughout the affected areas of Isukwato local government, Ogudoasa, Utru communities, and indeed the entire Abia North. 2, urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to quickly provide relief materials to the displaced citizens in the affected communities of Utru and Ogudoasa, as well as other erosion-affected communities of Abia North, particularly Arochukwu, Ohafia, Bende, Isukwato, and Umunochi, who are all in limbo as I speak. And finally, urge the Nigerian Ecological Fund and the Nigerian Erosion and Watershed Management Project, NUMA, to urgently collaborate to seek a permanent solution to the endemic gully erosion menace in Isukwato, Uturu, and Ogudoasa by way of funding and construction of a new route that links the communities with other areas surrounding the state. Mr. President, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to state that this motion is very urgent because as I speak today, you can't link up Ebonyi, Anambra, Enugu from that road to Abia, through Abia State, which is this quarter. And like I said, this is an agrarian area that they are cut off from their farmlands. And it's a big accident really about to happen. And if nothing is urgently done, at least to rescue the situation and restore the road, then maybe the news will be quite different. So I urge my colleagues to support this motion and also ask the Committee on Legislative Compliance to follow the resolution that will reach here today to ensure that something urgent is done. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, and to Stella.
Mr. President, I would like to say a few words in supporting this wonderful motion. Mr. President, I come from an area where today we are completely submerged into gullies of different types because of erosion. People will wake up in the mornings and their homes will completely disappear. People will wake up and their farmlands will no longer be there because of erosion. It happens in a very accelerated manner. Mr. President, I want to urge that on this bill that my community and other communities that have similar experience be included because it's life-threatening. Not only that, it's horror, life horror, that people will wake up and their homes will be divided into two, or the homes will no longer exist. It happens to us every day. I have personal experience. It has happened to me. It has happened to a whole community. In fact, 3 weeks ago, we have a community that really disappeared. Half of the land and the farmland, they were no longer there. And so, Mr. President, I support this motion, but I want to urge that this motion should be expanded, that these communities, mine in particular, be included, Anambra North and Anambra in general. Thank you, Mr. President.
Solomon Adokwe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to support this motion and make these few comments. The phenomena of erosion is becoming very prevalent in this country now, though natural, but we need to do something to mitigate the prevalence of it. I recall in the 7th Senate, Mr. President, you were chairing the Environment Committee, and I recall that I also had to submit some horror pictures of what took place in Nasarawa State. I know how you worked very hard in that committee to see that funds meant for ecological development were applied. I think what this Senate needs to do is to ask the Committee on Environment to really do a thorough investigation of what is happening to ecological funds in this country. We know that some proactive governors have had to expend their state government fund to deal with erosion issues and even requiring for some refunds. I believe that since these funds are deducted at source, there is a need for thorough accountability that these funds are applied where they are required to be applied. Because erosion is now becoming a very serious matter. Recently, I was watching a project on the TV where, just like the last speaker said, houses will just disappear into gully erosions and communities, a whole community will be wiped out. I think we need to stand up and do something about this across the country before it becomes a disaster that we cannot cope with. I know that we are very slow at responding to natural disasters, but this is something that is within our competence to deal with. I suggest, Mr. President, that the Committee on Environment should wake up and really investigate what needs to be done with ecological funds in this country. Thank you very much.
Senator Shafa.
It's a very, very important motion. We want the Senate President to recall that when you were Chairman, Committee on Environment in the 7th session, you started something that if the federal government had worked on it, we wouldn't be where we are as far as erosions of all kinds are concerned. For instance, my brother, Senator Mao, has limited his own area of concern to gully erosions. But I am from the coastal area. Lagos, for instance. The coastal erosion that is currently happening in Lagos now is unprecedented. And I can tell you specifically that we are crying for help from the federal government. I wouldn't want to limit this to only Lagos. States that are within the coastal areas like Delta, Edo, Bayelsa, Cross Rivers, they are equally suffering the same menace. On this note, therefore, I want to suggest that what you suggested in the 7th Senate should come to board. We should bring it to fore right now. And that is ensuring that a proper audit of erosion reading areas in Nigeria is done. If we are able to do that, then the appropriate agencies will work on that and ensure that we appropriate enough funds for these menace to be mitigated. Thank you and God bless.
Mr. President, I just want to draw the attention of the Senate to the special circumstances in which the Southeast Zone in particular finds itself. The entire Southeast Zone, with the exception of some few areas, is made up of a soil type which is typical to that zone. Mainly shale types of soils. So what has been happening is that any form of cultivation or activity that involves desiccation or disturbing of vegetation and exposing the soils to any form of disturbance, either through agricultural practices or through some adverse movement of the soil during construction, will ultimately result in the breakdown of the composition of the soil and its capacity to keep itself together. So mainly the ecology of the area, the soil type is made up of shale. Therefore, the only way in which we can really look into this, no amount of mitigation. All you can do some, unless you are going to revegetate the entire area, the only way you can be able to do is to designate that zone as a special agroecological zone, whereby you designate certain types of agricultural cultivation and certain types of agricultural intervention that will not involve so much disturbance of the soil. Because given the heavy rainfall in the area and given the nature of the soils in that particular zone, any activity, whether agricultural, construction, or anything that exposes the soil to any form of disturbance will result in gully erosion, and as such, in designing development interventions, whether in agriculture, road construction, or whatever, we should designate that region as a special region with special soil characteristics, so that the approach that we undertake to develop that region will take into account that peculiarity of that particular disease. Otherwise, anything that we do, mitigation or otherwise, is not going to solve the problem. Unless the government comes to recognize the special characteristic of the soil conditions of that area, so that we will now designate that particular zone as a special zone, so that any kind of development intervention that we are going to take to that zone will have to be tailored in accordance with the mitigatory factors that prevent soil erosion and breakdown of soil particles in the area. So I think the most important thing is really for the government to recognize the nature of the soil characteristics of the zone and designate that zone as a special area, so that whatever intervention you are going to design in that zone takes into account the peculiarity of the soil conditions of that area, so that these kind of issues can be mitigated and we can approach their development as peculiar manner. Otherwise, whatever you do,
urge the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, Ministry of Environment, to quickly intervene to rescue the situation and restore easy mobility of vehicles, citizens, goods and services throughout the affected areas of Oguduasa, Uturu communities, and all other affected communities across the country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished, those in favor of prayer 1 as amended, those against say nay. Ayes have it. Second prayer, urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to quickly provide relief materials to displaced citizens in the affected communities of Turu and Agudiasa and many other, as well as the other erosion-affected communities in the 5 local governments of Abia North, who are also in limbo. Those in favor of the prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the Nigerian Ecological Fund and the Nigerian Erosion and Watershed Management Project to urgently collaborate to seek a permanent solution to the endemic gully erosion menace in Ishukwa, Turu, and Ogunduasa by way of funding and construction of the new route that links the communities with other areas and surrounding states. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer? Yes, additional prayer, Senator Jibril.
My additional prayer is that authorities should take cognizance of the soil type existing in the southeastern part of the country in finding lasting solution to the problem of gully erosion in that region. I so move.
Urge the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Federal Ministry of Environment to designate the Southeast Zone as a special agroecological zone with distinct characteristics that require special targeted intervention in the area of agriculture and other development activities. That require special targeted intervention in the area of agriculture and other development activities.
Anybody seconding that? Senator Mao.
I rise to second this all-important additional, it's not an amendment, it's additional prayer. Additional prayer by our elder statesman who was a former permanent secretary.
Okay, those in favor of the prayer then say aye. Additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, I thank Senator Mao for that. And we do hope that the chairman of environment will oversee some of these resolutions to ensure that they are put into action, is taken promptly, so that the communities who are presently being affected can find some kind of respite and relief.
Committee on Sports and Social Development on the screening of the nomination of Mr. Lare Bajaber Mila for appointment as Director General National Lottery Regulatory Commission. Distinguished senators will recall that the request was referred to the committee Tuesday, the 23rd of October 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Obi Naugba, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
The report of the Committee on Sports and Youth Development on the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Larry Bajabi Miller for appointment as Director General, National Lottery Regulatory Commission. I so move.
I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Sports and Youth Development on the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Larry Bajabi Miller for appointment as Director General, National Lottery Regulatory Commission. I so second.
On the confirmation of Mr. Bajabi Miller for appointment as Director General, National Lottery Regulatory Commission. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Senator Ogba, come and lay your report.
On Tuesday, 23rd October 2018, consider the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the confirmation of nominee Mr. Larry Abaja as Director General, National Lottery Commission, and refers him to the committee for further legislative action. Members of the committee, myself and 8 others, members, the committee requested the Office of the Special Advisor to the President of National Assembly matter to submit the following document: CV, related certificate, clearance for State Security Services Police report, so on and so forth. The nominee was invited for screening on Wednesday, 24th this morning. The committee went through the credential CV, State Security Services clearance, Code of Conduct, and police report. During the screening, the committee asked